In December 2010, on a stretch of beach 40 miles east of Manhattan, a cadaver dog stopped walking. The handler thought it was nothing. A piece of trash, a dead animal. He was wrong. What the dog had found, half buried in the dunes off Ocean Parkway, was a body wrapped in burlap. Carefully arranged, carefully forgotten. Within 72 hours, 3 more would emerge from the same stretch of sand. And for the next 13 years, the man who put them there would drive past that beach every single day. He would wave at the officers searching for him. He would live 4 miles from where he had left them. He would raise 2 children. He would commute into Manhattan in a suit and tie. His name was Rex Heuermann. And the most disturbing part of his story isn't what he did to those women. It's what he did between killings for nearly 30 years without anyone ever noticing. Gilgo Beach doesn't look like a place where bodies get hidden. It looks like a postcard: white sand, Atlantic wind, a 2-lane road called Ocean Parkway running parallel to the water, lined with seagrass and beach plums, and not much else. It's quiet, that's the point. On the night of May 1st, 2010, a 23-year-old woman named Shannon Gilbert called 911 from a house in Oak Beach, a small private community just east of Gilgo. She told the operator that someone was trying to kill her. The call lasted 23 minutes. When police arrived, she was gone. For 7 months, Suffolk County searched for her. They walked the dunes. They flew helicopters. They sent dogs through the brush along Ocean Parkway. They never found Shannon Gilbert. What they found instead was worse. On December 11th, 2010, a K9 named Blue alerted on a patch of dune grass. Underneath, wrapped in burlap, was the body of a young woman. Within 4 days, 3 more bodies were uncovered along the same quarter-mile stretch. All 4 women in their 20s. All 4 sex workers. All 4 bound. All 4 wrapped. The press would call them the Gilgo Four. But the search wasn't over. Over the following months, investigators recovered remains belonging to at least 7 more people scattered along Ocean Parkway. Some had been there for years. Some for more than a decade. Some they couldn't identify at all. They had stumbled onto something none of them had a name for yet. A dumping ground. The Gilgo Four had something in common besides how they died. Each of them had been contacted in the days before they disappeared by the same person. He used burner phones. Cheap, untraceable, bought with cash, thrown away after use. He used fake names. He used Craigslist. And in at least one case, the case of a young woman named Melissa Barthélemy, he didn't stop after she died. For 5 weeks after Melissa vanished in 2009, someone began calling her teenage sister. Different phone each time. Always the same voice. Calm, polite, curious. He asked the sister if she missed Melissa. He asked her what she was wearing. He told her, in detail, what he had done to her older sister's body. And then he hung up. Each call lasted under 3 minutes. Just under the time it would take to triangulate a signal. This wasn't a killer who panicked after his crimes. This was a killer who studied them, replayed them, reached out to the families, savored their pain, and then dropped the phone in a public trash can in Midtown Manhattan and walked away. He was meticulous, he was patient, he was invisible. Profilers built a picture. Middle-aged, organized, technically skilled, likely from Long Island, likely with knowledge of forensics, likely a family man because the calls and the killings clustered around weekends when his family appeared to be elsewhere. The picture was almost perfect, but for 13 years, no one matched it to a face. The case went cold. The bodies stayed where they were found, and Rex Heuermann kept driving past them on his way to work. Massapequa Park is the kind of place people move to so their children can walk to school. Wide streets, modest houses, American flags, the smell of cut grass in summer. At 105 First Avenue, there sat a single-story house that had needed paint for at least a decade. Neighbors talked about it the way people talk about the one yard on the block that never gets fixed. The man who lived there was named Rex Heuermann, 6'4", heavy, quiet in the way some big men are quiet, like the silence is part of his size. He had grown up in that house. He had bought it from his mother in 1994 for $170,000. He had raised his daughter there, his stepson there. He commuted into Manhattan most days, where he ran his own architectural consulting firm out of an office on Fifth Avenue. Clients described him as competent, slow to anger, sometimes funny. His daughter often came to work with him. He had a wife named Asa. He had a Chevy Avalanche pickup truck parked in the driveway, with a distinctive triangular brace between the cab and the bed. He had no criminal record. He had, according to every neighbor police would later interview, no obvious dark side. He was, by every external measure, profoundly normal. That, it turned out, was the most dangerous thing about him. The case broke in 2022. A new Suffolk County District Attorney named Ray Tierney took office. He inherited a 13-year-old failure and a task force that had run out of leads. He started over. The team went back to one specific piece of evidence the original investigators had set aside. A witness statement from the roommate of one of the Gilgo Four, Amber Costello. The roommate remembered the last man who came to pick Amber up, a huge man, driving a dark pickup truck with a strange brace on the back. The task force ran every Chevy Avalanche registered in Massapequa Park. One name came back, Rex Heuermann. The physical description matched. The geography matched. The timing matched. They began watching him. For 13 months, they followed him. They pulled his phone records. They cross-referenced cell tower pings with the burner phones the killer had used. The burner phones had pinged in Massapequa Park. They had pinged in Midtown Manhattan. They had traveled, on multiple occasions, the same routes Heuermann drove every day for work. But none of that was enough. They needed DNA. So they followed him. On a Manhattan sidewalk one afternoon, Heuermann finished a slice of pizza and threw the box into a public trash can. A surveillance officer waited, then walked over, then collected it. The hair recovered from the crust of that pizza box was sent to the lab. It matched a male hair found on Megan Waterman's body, wrapped in burlap on Gilgo Beach in December of 2010. It matched the man who lived 4 miles from the dumping ground. On the evening of July 13, 2023, Rex Heuermann was walking south down Fifth Avenue after leaving his office. Plainclothes officers stepped out of the crowd and surrounded him. He didn't run. He didn't fight. According to his lawyer, he said only one thing, quietly, as they cuffed him. "I didn't do this." The search of the house at 105 First Avenue lasted 12 days. Officers in hazmat suits tore up the yard. They scanned the ground with subsurface radar, looking for what they called disturbances. They dug. They went into the basement. In the basement, behind a hidden door, they found a vault. Inside the vault, hundreds of weapons. The exact number has never been released. They found burner phones. They found burlap. They found tape. And on one of Heuermann's seized devices, they found something the prosecutors would later describe in court as a planning document. A deleted Microsoft Word file. Title: HK 2002-04. The file contained categorized checklists, forensics to avoid, body disposal sites, procedures for handling, and the court document uses this word, processing victims. Reading from it in open court, the district attorney would later say that Heuermann hadn't merely killed these women. He had engineered their deaths, studied the mistakes of other killers, designed his own. He had been a man, by training and by trade, who built things. He had simply applied the same skill to a different kind of project. While he was building his career, while he was watching his daughter grow up, while he was driving past Gilgo Beach on weekend mornings, he had been quietly perfecting an architecture of murder. For 30 years. On April 8, 2026, Rex Heuermann walked into a courtroom in Riverhead, New York, and pleaded guilty. 7 murders, then an 8th. The 8th, a woman named Karen Vergata, was a killing he had never even been charged with. He admitted it voluntarily in exchange for the prosecution agreeing not to file new charges. He stood there, 62 years old, the same hulking silhouette his neighbors used to see putting out the trash. He did not explain why. He did not apologize. He simply said the word guilty and sat down. His sentencing is scheduled for June 17, 2026. He will receive life in prison without the possibility of parole. His former wife had filed for divorce 3 days after his arrest in 2023. His daughter has not spoken publicly, and the families of his 8 known victims, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, Amber Costello, Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, Sandra Costilla, and Karen Vergata, sat in that courtroom and listened to the man who had taken them say nothing. His lawyer, when asked outside court why his client had finally confessed, said it had been cathartic. That word, cathartic. As if what had happened to those 8 women had, in the end, given him some kind of relief. There's a detail in this case that never made the headlines. Along that same stretch of Ocean Parkway, between 2010 and 2011, investigators found the remains of at least 3 other people. A woman, a mother, her 2-year-old daughter, and one young person whose identity is still unknown, found wearing women's clothing, found near where Heuermann left his victims. None of them were killed by Rex Heuermann. The Nassau County District Attorney described that stretch of beach with a single sentence. She called it a wasteland, a good place to drop a body. Rex Heuermann was one killer, one architect, one man. But the beach he chose, quiet, empty, miles from anywhere, had been used by others before him. And no one knows, even now, how many.